saying he went up into a mountain should only be used the first time it's spoken in Luke. The night before, he goes up into a mountain to pray. So I think this second part, he's going to have come down to heal them, then go back up a ways to be above them, so that when he preaches, his voice travels more. So I'm going to have he went up, but not into a mountain, because that brings into confusion. Is it a different mountain? Is it a different time? I'm going to say the mountain. That way it's the same place. So then after he heals them, he went up the mountain. The from Matthew as well. I'll just move the over a bit. And again, it's not the most clean, but it's easier with the syntax. He went up the mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came to him. Then probably from Luke, he lifted up his eyes on his disciples. Then back to Matthew, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying. Then combine the blessed bees. It may not be the prettiest, but I think it's the best. He went up into, I used into a already, didn't I? Into a is gone. And I'm moving the from earlier, so right here. He went up the mountain. Luke 6:20 continues, and he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said. But I already have, when he was set, his disciples came to him. So if I just put, he lifted up his eyes. His disciples came to him. He lifted up his eyes on his disciples. Maybe I could say, his disciples came to him. Combine his disciples, because I don't think it's necessary to say who he's talking to twice. His disciples came to him. He lifted up his eyes. So I could just move them. Instead of and taught them, saying, I could just say, he lifted up his eyes on them and opened his mouth and taught, saying. I know it's reordering, but if I don't reorder, it would say, when he was set, his disciples came to him. He lifted up his eyes on his disciples, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying. But I already have and said. Yeah, I don't want to repeat his disciples. It's only mentioned once in both Matthew and Luke. So I'll move the them. He lifted up his eyes on them. There's a lot of ands in this sentence. And he went up the mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came to him. Right after his disciples came to him, I'm just going to say he lifted up his eyes on them. I'm not going to put the and because there's so many already. I want to use the and from Luke before Matthew. He went up the mountain. He lifted up his eyes on them, and he opened his mouth and taught, saying. Yeah. I'll have to say one of these ands is also from Luke, because I don't use one. Before and said from Luke, at the end of Luke 20b, and said. Yeah. Work. It finishes, and he went up the mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came to him. He lifted up his eyes on them, and he opened his mouth and taught, saying. Okay, good. So that's the combination of this intro to the Sermon on the Mount and the Sermon on the Plain, and now I'll get into putting them together.